Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Joining us today is Andy Guttormsen. Andy is the co-founder at Co. Co is now the world's leading community platform for creators and businesses. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Patience. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. My audience are excited to hear your story. Just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited to share with you how you can create a community of people who are excited to pay you for access to some type of outcome or learning where, they'll come through, you'll take them on a journey where they can learn something and then ultimately they'll accomplish something and they'll do it alongside other people. So you'll create a paid membership community.
Wow, I can't wait to hear more about that. Let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background and what you did before you started your own business?
Yeah, of course. So before Circle, I was actually at a company called Teachable. And so Teachable is an online course platform. My co-founders and I, we were the third and the sixth employee there. We were really early. And ultimately, we ended up serving tens of thousands of online course creators, right? So a lot of the biggest kind of names out there, it could be anybody from, just an individual with a backyard, gardening course to big brands that sold online courses. And so we were there for 4.5, 5 years. And ultimately we ended up selling Teachable, was acquired. And that was really the catalyst for us starting Circle. We really loved working with creators and brands. We didn't want at the time to create kind of like another course platform, but we realized that so many of the best creators out there, they had these kind of membership experiences and communities of people that they were building around themselves. And so we wanted to help create tools to enable more of that.
Wow. But what do you do? What do you do?
The thing we realized that was really exciting for us is when you look at a lot of the best creators who are, let's say they're earning the most money, right? Mm-hmm. They have a lot of course sales or they've built these really big membership businesses. They have one customer who then has a really great outcome, raving fans online, and then they tell others about it. There's great word of mouth. We realized there was kind of like one commonality amongst all of them, which is that they also had these community experiences on the side. And so historically, there's been this gap, though, where you might have like a Facebook group or you might have a Slack group. And there was no like really great tool to make it easy so that you could have your courses and your people in one place and your community in one place and your live videos in one place and all of it in one place. And so that really struck a chord with my co-founders and I, where we realized there were a lot of people who actually couldn't create these online communities because the tools weren't available to them. So when you ask, like, why do we do what we do? It's because we really love the outcomes that these communities can create, whether you're trying to become, better at your business, or you're trying to become a better parent, or you're trying to become better at playing a game like chess or a sport. The communities unlock that, but there's not as many people creating these communities because of there not being the tools available. And so that's why, we went after this space.
Wow. And before that, tell my audience, what is the concept of the community? Because we hear communities, tribes, but what is the concept going on for 2024?
Yeah, so it's a really good question because there's actually a lot of confusion around the word community. It's this word that's used everywhere and maybe even overused. But when we talk about community, here's what we really mean, just very practically, right? So if you're, let's say, on social media, right, there you might have some followers where kind of it's a one-to-many experience. You're sharing something and then your followers see it and they have this relationship, maybe it's even an indirect relationship with you, but what they don't have is a relationship with each other. And so a community is a little bit different. A community is where I am, let's say I'm a creator or I've built a little bit of a following, but I'm actually connecting the people in my audience with each other. The other thing that's different about a community is where a lot of times people are often creating these followings of hundreds or thousands of people or tens of thousands of people. A lot of these communities are 10 people or 100 people, and so they can be much smaller. And so a great example of a community would be like one of my favorites. There's a coach, and his name is Josh Hall, and he helps online like web developers go out and get more clients. And so he has a community of a bunch of web developers who are all in business for each other, and they share ideas together. They get to go log into a membership community where they can attend weekly office hours with Josh, who's kind of like the expert in the group. They can share ideas with each other for how to grow their businesses. There's kind of real-time chat rooms where they can just talk in real time throughout the day. There's forums where they can ask each other questions and get feedback. They bring in experts to teach on topics specific to growing their businesses. So that's kind of what a community is. And by the way, there's only 100 people in that group. So that's kind of how it's different than, let's say, a big following where it's one to many.
Thank you. Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
Yeah, so there's, I guess, a lot of different measures of success. And, for us, it's pretty easy. There's kind of like professional work success, and there's, maybe personal success. For me, it's like the personal success is more so, does my family like spending time with me? And is everything at home in a good place? Am I healthy? Like that's successful. Am I, showing up to my best every day? But then, professionally, it's very easy there too. It's really like, are our customers successful? Are our customers growing their communities? Are they getting value from our products? Are they earning more? Are they helping their customers succeed because our tools are enabling them to do that? And so it's really, if our customers are successful, then we're successful. And so that's kind of how we measure our success.
Tell our listeners how to build a community around a product or a service. Can anyone do it, even if they are just new on online?
Anybody can do it. However, not everybody should do it. So the good news is that if you really want to build a community, and specifically if you want to build a community that you're going to charge for and earn from, you could do it. Like there are plenty of tools, plenty of options. It really just takes, some key steps, which we'll talk about. But the thing is, it takes real work. So building a community business, or like, let's say a membership site, it's definitely not a get rich quick scheme. It's definitely not easy. It takes real time, like any business does. But the way that I would approach it, there's a few different steps. The first thing at the end of the day, like any business, is you really need to deliver some type of like tangible outcome or value to the members, right? And so I'll give you a really great example of this. One of my favorite communities on Circle is a community called Good Inside. It's goodinside.com, and it's for parents. And what they do is, especially for like new parents who maybe have a newborn or something like that, if I'm a new parent, there's a lot that I don't know. And so maybe I want to go on this journey and gather a lot of information, but maybe I want to go on this journey with other new parents as well. And so the woman who runs goodinside.com, her name is Dr. Becky. And what they do in there is they have kind of like forums where people can ask questions and get answers. They have a weekly office hours session where I can come and I can maybe ask Dr. Becky questions and get answers. They'll bring in an expert once a month to kind of like teach something, right? And so what we actually call this is, these are like signature gatherings, right? So the value prop that you deliver, really what that is it's a combination of a few signature gatherings where like you're bringing people together to get value. And so, for you, let's say that you wanted to create a community for people. The first place to start is to think about what's like the big outcome you're going to provide. Maybe it's something along the lines of, I'm just using Dr. Becky as an example. I am going to know for the first 6 months that I am becoming a much better parent of a newborn. I'm going to be supported, guided, so I can do a really great job in those first 6 months. Whatever that outcome is, that deliverable, you're going to figure out what's the outcome and then who am I serving? And from there, the signature gatherings, that's the how. That's how you deliver those outcomes to those members. And so every great community is really just a combination of a few signature gatherings. Now, there's a lot of different types of signature gatherings out there, right? And so what we always recommend is to figure out what type of signature gatherings are right for your audience, but also what type of signature gatherings are right for you and based on your personality and the way you like to work and your lifestyle. And so I'll give you some examples of some other signature gatherings, right? And there's dozens and dozens and dozens. But, one example is like a book club, right? You can literally there's plenty of book clubs and signature gatherings where once a week, like every week you read a chapter, then you get together and you might talk about that book. Another example is what we call hot seats. And so a hot seat it's really fun, really valuable. What it is you might have 6 or 7 people in a group, right? So all hop on a Zoom call. And every week somebody will come, let's say it's like a business related community. I might get to be on the hot seat this week where for 30 minutes, I'll kind of talk about a big problem I'm having in my business. And then the rest of the group will sit there and try and help me solve that business. Or if we were to go back to the parenting community, maybe I'm having some problem that I'm trying to work through with parenting. Like maybe my child isn't sleeping. I'll come with, 4 or 5 other parents. I'll share my issue. And then for the next hour, they'll all try and help me by giving me feedback on what's worked for them, right? And so a hot seat is a really cool signature gathering. Another example would be I get to share some of my work that I'm doing. Like let's say it's once a week or whatever. And then people come in and they give me feedback. So there's a really great writing community on Circle that I love. And it's actually a big community. It generates millions of dollars a year. And folks come in, they share their writing. And then what they'll do is they'll get feedback from the group to make their writing better. And so there's all these different types of signature gatherings, and there's dozens more I could share, but you just need to figure out the 2 or 3 that are best for you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. Tell my audience about the magic moment, the day it suddenly all went right for you.
There was no magic moment where like overnight everything worked out, but there are some key milestones, right? So
yes.
A big key milestone for me was actually when I got my first job at Teachable about 9 years ago. I was actually really struggling. I had tried to start a business and it failed. I didn't have any money and I was really starting from scratch. And I really wanted to get into technology startups and all of that. And I didn't have a clear way in. And so, I reached out to tons of different kind of like founders and CEOs and got meetings with a whole bunch of them, did a lot of work. It was kind of humbling because, I was basically offering to work for free and all of that. I got rejected a bunch, but I finally landed a job at Teachable, and that was a big milestone. Another example of a milestone was when 5 years later, we sold Teachable. I earned a good amount of money on that sale, and it was life-changing for me because what it did was it allowed me to have enough cushion financially to take a big bet and to start Circle. And so that was the other big milestone. And I would say kind of maybe the more recent milestone is the team at Circle. Last week we were just in Turkey. We did an offsite there. We're a worldwide company. We have people all over the world, 150 employees. And, as I was looking around and just kind of talking with everybody, our team is really great. Like they're really engaged, happy with their work. And that's kind of the other big milestone that I experienced last week. But, all of it kind of accumulated over, 10 years. And I would say like there was a lot of up and down in between that was not, exciting and definitely not flattering all the time. So.
And what would be one thing that you remember and say, oh, that was really painful? So people will want to know to say what they are going through now at the moment when they are building their businesses and they're like, oh, this is really, I'm stuck on this, but I can see Andy's is successful. He started Teachables, he sold it 5 years, and now he's on to Circle. He's being successful. Surely, has he ever had a moment where things are not working? So if you can share that with the listeners, please.
Of course. So there's been a lot of those moments. And I would say, actually, even though, from the outside looking in, Circle is a successful company up to this point, I would say there's more days that have challenges than not. One example, would be at Teachable, actually, kind of towards the end. I was really struggling. I was a first-time leader there, and I was a vice president there. But, the truth is I had never really been a senior leader before. And I was really struggling to scale with the business. I went to my close friend and our CEO there at Teachable at the time. And I told him, hey, I don't know if I actually have what it takes to be the person to lead this part of the business that I was leading at the time through the next stage of growth. And so, that was really humbling. But I went to him and I said, hey, we need to go out and find a new boss a new leader here. I'll go find a new boss, for myself. And so I did that and I led that search and I hired, the person I was going to report into. That was really, challenging to do and humbling because it felt like a big failure at the time. And that's because it was a failure.
How long did it take you to really discover that?
It took probably about a year. It's like one thing when you're running a business kind of like Teachable or like Circle is that when you look at your executive team, the VPs, folks like that, we should all really be about, 6 months or so kind of ahead, 12 months ahead of where the business is in terms of like our thinking, planning and all of that. And I was never 6 months ahead or 12 months ahead. At least I hadn't been in a while. And in fact, I was behind. And so all those things were kind of adding up and it just became clear that it was not going to get better fast enough. But it took about a year probably to get conviction that, hey, we got to go find somebody else.
Thank you for sharing. In your stories also, you mentioned that before you landed the job at the Teachables, you offered to work for other companies for free, but you are rejected. How did you take rejection?
Well, I think something I should probably clarify is that, I probably reached out to about 12 different companies and I actually met with almost all of them and about half of them were excited to, engage and work with me. And that really worked, right? There was a good hit rate there that's where I got opportunities from. So, the ones where they did reject me, something that really helped was that I had a lot of other irons in the fire, as we would say, like there was other options because I had, conversations with 12 different companies. So that really was a good lesson for me was to kind of diversify, and have a lot of different options. But, the rejection was tough at times. So, what I did appreciate though, was that actually people, when they rejected me, they were very direct and they said, hey, I just don't think you have experience. And I remember sitting down in the office. It was like a pretty fancy kind of new startup office in New York City. And I was sitting down with the chief operating officer of the company. And, she was really impressive and she was really kind, but she was very direct. And she just told me, after I met with her for about 30 minutes, she said, look, Andy, you're smart and you've got a lot of upside, but you're clearly not ready for this role that you're asking for right now. And so let's keep in touch, but today's not the day. And I really, appreciated that she was very direct.
So the advice to our listeners is don't give up, keep going, keep pushing. You land somewhere. Someone out there is waiting for you to work for them. I guess that's
of course. Resilience is key. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What have you learned from businesses as a whole?
I think there's so many things we could touch on, but I think one thing that stands out to me that I think is maybe less obvious to some people and harder to follow through with is that before I joined Teachable, so I was at Teachable for about 5 years, and I so far have been at Circle for about 4.5 years, right? Before that, I jumped around. I tried a whole bunch of different things. Most of them failed. And nobody ever asked me about all the things that didn't work. But there was tons of different things that didn't work. And it's totally okay. Like I literally wouldn't have been able to have these wins that we had at Teachable and Circle without all the learnings from the failures of those other businesses. But what I would say is once you do find something that is working, at some point you have to kind of hunker down and stay with that thing. And a lot of the value is created in years 3, 4, 5, 6. And so you really should try and find something that you can stick with for many years once it's working. But if it's not working, early on, you should, accept reality. And it's a tough Balance.
Wow. How early on can we decide to say, okay, I'm I'm now into dog training. I've been in it for X amount of time. I don't feel it is working. I'm moving on to cats training. How long should we stay in one niche before we move on?
I think you need to start by understanding what success looks like for you. So it's hard to judge if you don't actually know what your goals are. So I'll give you a very clear example. If let's say that I have a goal and I want to make $100,000 a year, and I don't need to do it this year, but I need to within 3 years be making $100,000 a year from this business. And I want to do dog training. What I like to do to keep myself honest with new businesses, because I'm guilty of like wanting to start businesses all the time, is set milestones. So the first milestone might be like, let's say that I'm going to create a online community, a membership community for people to learn how to train their dogs or something like that, right? Maybe the first thing is I need to break this kind of big project up into smaller chunks. So the first thing might be like, all right, I'm going to figure out what are my signature gatherings? How many members do I want in order to validate the idea? And and this is the key part, how much time will I give myself to do it? And maybe you give yourself 90 days or 60 days or whatever it is. And if I can do this within 60 or 90 days, great. Then I know what milestone two is, and I'll move on to milestone 2. But if I can't figure it out in 90 days or 60 days, that first kind of little mini milestone, something's off here. And then I need to reconsider.
Thank you. What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Well, I think there are so many things, but I think, first of all, I'm very fortunate. I have a great upbringing. My family was, very supportive, and that really helped. I feel like I had a lot of advantages. I do work hard. I work a lot of hours, and that's actually kind of almost confrontational or a lot of people these days, they want a lot of work-life balance and spend a lot of time outside of the office and all that. And, I feel like I get to do that, but I do put in a lot of hours. And so, I'll tell you a little story, but right after we sold Teachable in the early days of Circle, that first year, I literally delivered personally over 1,000 live demos to customers. So I would do 8 or 9 30-minute demos a day where I would be chatting with somebody, showing them our product. And it wasn't, scalable, but it was what was required in order to, start something out of nothing. And so I'd say like hard work is up there.
Wow. How did you get ready doing 8 to 9 demos per day? What was the preparation?
The truth is there wasn't actually that much time for preparation. So, now our sales team, they do maybe 3 or 4 demos a day. So they actually are able to think about, okay, who am I going to be meeting with today? What's the best approach for the sales call? All of that kind of stuff. But because I was doing so many, I had to kind of like breeze through every single one of them. And so for me, the number one thing I could do was, one, I would look through who I'm going to be talking to, because it's every half hour, but at the beginning of the day. But then also just like rest well, eat well. A lot of times I wouldn't have lunch because it just wasn't baked in. So I would have to start off my morning, really well rested and eat, do all that kind of basic stuff.
Wow. What time did you clock off by audience? Because he said now we need to rest, but someone will be like, I need to do 9 videos meeting with these clients. What time did you have to rest?
It wasn't actually long hours. It was, my morning would start at I'd be kind of at my desk at maybe 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m. And then I would be done by maybe 6 p.m. But it was more so just that the entire day was filled with basically sales calls and demos, talking to people, which can be, it requires a lot of energy to do. So it wasn't long hours though.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's talk more about your business and tell us how we can join it.
Sure. Well, today I work at Circle, and, Circle is the leading community platform for creators and brands. We have 10,000 folks who are building their own, membership businesses and community businesses on Circle. And you can go to circle.so to kind of learn more about it. But yeah, it's really easy to get set up, play around. You can get a free trial and kind of see, kind of almost set up the home for your community and get some ideas for what it would be like for you if you wanted to go and kind of set up a membership experience. Almost treat it like a playground.
Thank you. And anyone can join this?
Of course. Yeah. It's, it's available all over the world, everything digital, everything online. There's a free trial too, which is great. And by the way, if it runs out, you just start a different free trial. So you can go in there and really, it just successful to everybody.
Thank you. There will be more from Andy in a moment. If you're encouraged by Andy's journey, please go to my website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Andy, I won't keep you for long. So we are just going to breeze through these quick, rapid questions. Okay? Great. Okay. Now, Andy, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you're up for it.
I'd love that.
Thank you. Do you watch movies or read books?
Both. Do I have to say one?
Which one is it? Do you do more?
Probably right now, books.
Okay, we'll go for that. Tell us, what is your favorite book that have some relevance being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so there's one that I'm reading right now, which is it's just one of my favorite books I've read in such a long time, and it's called Titan, and it's all about John D. Rockefeller, and it's a really long book, so it's taken me a while, but it's about him basically in the United States in the late 1800s. He essentially built this company called Standard Oil, which was a big conglomerate in the US, and kind of talks about how they built that business over many decades. And just a really interesting story. And so really enjoyed that.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
Well, let's see. If it was down to 100. So it would just depend on the type of business that I had. But if I'm, just to be very honest, like if I was down to $100, I probably wouldn't even spend that $100. I'd probably be looking for all free tools. And by the way, what's amazing is that there are so many amazing free tools that you can create a really large, profitable, exciting, satisfying business without spending a dime.
Thank you. Okay. If you had a little note in your pocket, what would that mean to you?
If I had a little what in my pocket?
If you had a little note in your pocket, what would that mean to you?
A little note, like what would it say on it?
Yes, and what would be the meaning to you?
Yeah, so there is well, I'm going to tell you the truth, even though it's probably a little bit crass, but I have a little sign on my desk and it says, do your job. And what it means is essentially, be willing to have the hard conversations at work and, challenge our team to have really high standards, challenge the people to, perform well, all of that. And so like, that's something that I literally put in my desk all the time. It really sits here, just reminding me all day to like be willing to have the hard conversations. And then the other thing that comes to mind that I think about all the time is that a lot of the best things that will happen to you in your life are kind of like right outside of your comfort zone. So if you feel like a little bit uncomfortable, like you're kind of stretching to the upper bounds of your comfort zone, it's probably worth going a little bit further and being uncomfortable because there's a lot of rewards on the other side.
Thank you. What is your next chapter?
Well, I guess professionally, it's just at Circle, I'm really invested for the long term in us growing this business. And so probably for the first time ever, I'm not even thinking about, what's next beyond Circle, because I could see being at Circle for the next, 10 plus years. There's so much to do. And then personally, my wife and I are expecting a baby in about 8 weeks. And so I'm just excited for that next chapter to become a parent for the first time. So, those are kind of like the two things that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right. Oh, thank you. Do you feel like you succeeded or like you are only on the way?
I do feel like I've succeeded. I feel like there's a lot more to do, but at the same time, a lot of what I'm actually trying to do more of is be less focused on accomplishment and more focused on living in the moment, reducing expectations a little bit, just being, grateful and having gratitude for, what we have kind of just today. And so that's been my focus.
Will you ever stop?
Probably not. Because, this is for me, this is a lot of fun. Like building businesses, it's just lots of fun. Our world is so interesting. Like there's so many different challenges, kind of like the business landscape is so interesting. There's like AI is so kind of fascinating now. There's so many different things to do. And so no, I'll always do something.
As we come to the end of our interview, what additional wisdom would you like to share with our listeners?
I think, if you're considering starting a business, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, I know a lot of times, it's easy to jump around to a lot of different ideas and to always kind of look at what other people are doing and compare yourselves to other people. But, the reality is you should really just get started. You should, find 1 or 2 or 3, paying customers. You should plan, be patient, give yourself a lot of time. And you should just be okay with the fact that in order to build a really, successful business, it takes time. It doesn't have to be a rush. And so I think people, and I know I'm guilty of this as anybody, put a lot of pressure on themselves by comparing. And I wouldn't do that. That's like the advice I would give, if I had like a younger brother or sister.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
Sure. So you can just, first of all, anybody can reach out to me directly anytime. My email is just andrew@circle.so, or you can find us at circle.so. It's our website there, and you can check it out and create a community.
And it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Thank you so much, Patience. It was just a lot of fun to get to chat with you. And I really appreciate you having me on, and just congrats on everything you've done for this space to help people.
You are welcome. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Andy.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest, and want you to know that there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast and are only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps us each chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on the favorite platform you have to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at Apple Podcasts and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share the journey. One last thing, if you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out our coaching sessions on how to set goals and double your productivity while you're at the website. Working with Patience is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.